how does a conservative deal with the environment? In North Carolina right now, we have the government in charge of a lot of our land. We have environmental laws that, due to corruption in the past, and we can look at Mr. Allen right now, one of the governor's friends, who kicked anywhere between $50,000 and $150,000 to the Democrat Party in order for it to go to the Easley campaign, in order for him to get approval for his boat ramp. We see the Wildlife Commission being a wonderful little political handout that's given to the buddies of the top-ranking Democrat politicians. We see at every level of government, when it comes down to the environment and environmental decisions being made, no one's sitting there and saying, hey, before we pass this law, before we approve this, is anyone doing a cost-benefit analysis? Is anybody figuring out what this does to the people around the land, who own the land, whatever it might be? And then we can also get into the thing that we see here lately, here in New Hanover County with the Titan cement plant. We have laws that should be respected. We have approval processes that should be followed. Why are you giving someone millions and millions of dollars to come here, and at the same time you're in charge of the approval process to whether or not they comply and comport with environmental laws and regulations to protect the land that they're moving on? I am all for business doing business. I want to see that. But at the same time, business has to be done responsibly. And I've talked about my opposition to incentives is the minute you start incentivizing people, you start changing the dynamic of a business and what it considers a profit. Because now they're profiting off the government, so they don't even have to be as concerned about serving their customers as much as they are serving the government bureaucrats, politicians, board members who brought them here. The best thing that we can do is to get the government out of the incentive business, is to have reasonable environmental laws that protect us, is to look at passing any additional laws based only on what will it cost and what will it benefit, all the way around, and make sure that we inject free market into our environmental decisions, protecting our environment, keeping polluters out, and at the same time bring rights to legal actions to landowners to protect their land, their air quality, their water, their mineral rights, all of the things that flow from land that has such a long history in this country until all of it was thrown into a statutory status, starting back around the 1940s and 50s, when you started seeing the rise of what I call the concrete of government, which is when you start taking all the law and making it statutory and you start getting away from the common law. I approach the environment having read Murray Rothbard's book, For a New Liberty, many, many years ago. And he talked about free market environmentalism at a time that I'd never heard free market environmentalism talked about. He gave the history of how environmentalism worked before the government became the environmental protector, back when we had nuisance laws under common law where things were really enforced, where you really had the ability as a citizen, as a landowner, to protect your interest in the land, where the government really didn't own a lot of the land. And the parts that they managed, when it was mismanaged, you had the ability to sue them and make them stop influencing your property in a way that made it less valuable. I'm not at all for a more litigious society, but I am for a more responsible, free market-oriented society where people pay the costs of what they do. And they pay the total cost of what they do. And whether it is me as a citizen or whether it is a corporation, I think we have to look at it across the board. And the best thing we can do is to make sure that the system is fair. And I keep going back to that Titan example. We need concrete. Most of the buildings we deal with are concrete. Nothing wrong with concrete plants. But I'm concerned when a location is picked based upon government bureaucrats and politicians deciding to give out our tax dollars to change that total equation, and then they're the same people who are going to be shepherding folks through a permitting process, that they have a vested interest that they've already taken our money and given to people in order to get them approved. I mean, how in the world can you expect fairness there?